variations. It's not that one exercise is magic or works one little thing more than another necessarily. A lot of it has to do with variety for your joints, so that they're not always getting worn in the same way. And some exercises work well for others in terms of setting them up, and some exercises don't, based upon our individual structures. So this may work great for you right here, where you feel something different going on, but don't worry about it. People say, well, it involves more of this or more of that. It's not the main point. Think about your performance here. Again, he's not swaying forward and backward in his whole body. We want to keep nice and straight like he is right here. And again, pinching here while his arms come by his side. Reaching up with both his shoulder blades and his arms, and it just doesn't get any better than that right there. Let's take a look at two great versions of the lat pull down, this time using the hand grips, the standard hand grip. And Amy's going to help me go ahead and face the machine and have a seat. Now, you notice that when you use the bar, it is just barely coming down lower than the snap hooks. When you put the handles on, they extend down a little bit lower. And that's one reason we're using the standard ones, because the triple action or triple function hand grip goes even lower than that. But you might have to put the seat a little lower when you're using the hand grips for a pull down than when you've got the bar on there. So we've got this set up pretty well for Amy, and we've got the pulleys in the narrow position. And we're going to do two versions, as I mentioned, one being simply allowing the handles to come down pretty much parallel to each other, like our palms will be facing each other. Now the key to doing the pull down, starting out by sitting up straight, and then watching what's happening in the shoulder blades. Notice when she reaches up, those shoulder blades really come up there. And when she comes down, she brings them together, and down is the key. Watch these shoulder blades. They come down towards her waist. Look at that. That is so important, because many times when people do this, they forget their shoulder blades and they're trying to do it all with their arms, and that's not really what we're looking for. Now notice what she also does. She makes a fluid motion so that as the shoulder blades finish, the arms finish. And she's bringing the arms to her side, not behind her, not in front of her, but trying to complete it right where they meet her side. So watch that fluid motion. Also notice that she's not rocking back and forth, trying to pull with her torso or her hips. And that's the perfect motion for this narrow grip pull down. Now, we can simply change it, and it's not going to change a lot, except for some of you maybe comfort. Maybe it is a neat variation to simply turn the hands so the palms are now not facing each other, but facing you, facing away from the machine. And she's going to maintain that position throughout each and every repetition. Everything else remains unchanged. So there are two great, really nice variations, because when you use a bar, there is some restriction because your hands are stuck on the bar, and the width you choose to put your hands on the bar will create a version of restriction. This is great because she could even alternate them if she wanted to. Look at that. And this is so nice. And if you've never had the chance to try this in a gym, because they always have a bar stuck on a pull down, this is almost like two separate pull down machines in one. And she can alternate. She could do just one side by itself entirely, and then finish the set by doing, the next 10 reps on the other side. There's so many ways to take advantage of the Bowflex with exercises you could never do in the gym. Well, I've got two great versions of the pull down for you on the Bowflex that you have a tough time finding in the gym. So start with the seat low enough that you can reach up and not have slack in your arm or in the pulley. So Josh, go ahead and have a seat there facing the machine. And we've got the pulleys in the widest setting on the lat tower with the hand grips. And Josh is going to cross over, and providing this resistance from across his body is something you will not be able to do in most gyms. Now this is going to be kind of a wide version, meaning if you were using a wide lat bar, you'd be performing this motion where your arm is coming from the side and coming towards your body, and that's similar to what we're going to be doing here. So notice that he's moving in this plane. There you go. So all the other rules of the pull down are the same. We're not going to sway forwards and backwards. We're going to take great care to make sure that the shoulder blades are moving with the arms, and they're pinching down and back as his arms are smashing near his sides. And it's going to feel very different and provide you virtually more resistance at the top of the motion, where you're normally balanced and not doing a lot, and you're working hard down here. By having the resistance come from either side, you're actually going to be working even at the top as you start the motion. Now, a second version of that where we're still crossing over would be where we move the pulleys in to the narrow setting. And this might actually be the place where you would want to start this exercise. It's going to be a tiny bit easier than the wider pulley setting, at least in terms of the initiation of movement. But everything else is the same. You're still moving in this plane that's across your body, and then elbows out to the side, and then elbows down in. This exercise is traditionally called the stiff arm pull down because you're really trying to keep your arms straight and let all the work occur in the shoulder muscles. Now we sometimes call these the back muscles, but they move your shoulder joint. So Josh is going to come around this way, and he's going to stand probably up on the platform because that's going to allow him to get the full range of motion that he needs. We've got the pull down bar on here, but he's going to grab with an overhanded grip at just about shoulder width, maybe a little bit wider, honestly. And watch the key here. He keeps his arms straight, and without moving anything else in his body, he brings his arms towards his side. Now this is going to get really tough at the bottom down here where those rods are bending all the way. And here's what a lot of people are going to want to do. If you can notice from the side camera over here, go ahead and that's what you're going to want to do. If you've got too much weight and you're not paying attention to what's going on, you're going to want to try to do it with other things. So notice he keeps his rib cage up, which means in essence he's keeping his spine in the same position, and all of it's coming from the shoulder blade muscles, the lats, all those guys moving the shoulders themselves as well. So take great care to make sure that you're performing it with these muscles you're trying to work. And if you start to move anything else in the torso, it's not that it's a bad exercise when you do that, you just may not be emphasizing the muscles that are your goal. This is a version of a stiff arm pull down. Some people even call this a pull over. It's just that a pull over is typically, you know, in a gym, you're laying on a bench, pulling over with a dumbbell. Well, this is a Bowflex version of a pull over where we're going to use the individual handles, the standard handle, and Josh is going to come around to the front. He'll probably end up standing right up on the platform. And we're in the narrow pulley position. And the whole goal is going to be to simply bring the straight arm beside the body. Now, notice the big thing here is that he's keeping his trunk immobile. He's statically holding it still. And show him what happens sometimes when people try to do it wrong, Josh. Yeah, they actually try to almost do like a crunch, like they bend forward. And yeah, see how, now he's not hurting anything necessarily, but he's using so many other muscles that he may not be achieving the goal of this exercise, which is to involve the shoulder blade muscles, the lats, and the lats buddies here, the smaller muscles all around the bottom part of the shoulder, even some rear delt here. And you're going to feel some tricep because you're working hard to keep your arms still the whole time. Now we could actually modify this exercise just a little bit by alternating, and this makes it really fun, and one of the advantages of being able to do things with the individual handles almost as if you had two separate pull down machines. And in the gym you can't do that because there's only one cable in the gym most of the time. So this is very different from what you could do with a bar. And he could even just do one side and not the other. Even if he had one arm and he had some surgery on or something, he could do it one really light and the other more challenging. There's so many options on the Bowflex. But I want to show you one other variation where he actually stands off the machine a little bit and bends over a little bit. Now he may not be able to pull all the way to his legs, but the thing that's different is his new starting position. So instead of starting here, he's starting with more opening here, more of a raised arm in essence. So there's a whole different exercise that's simply a variation of the first that allows you to work through an even greater range. So take a look at both of those because they're in a sense complementary. One completes the other. This is the seated lat row, and you can actually do some things in the Bowflex that you can't even do in the gym. But you will see that this might remind you of a gym exercise, a cable row type of movement. We need to make sure that when we're seated, we're keeping the knees bent. That'll help with your spinal position, and put your heels against the platform. Now the pulley position we're going to have in the narrow setting, or I think here we've got the next to the narrowest setting, like the second from the tower here. And you can actually play with that. You probably will not want to use the widest one though. Now the biggest thing I want to bring up in this exercise, as in many others, When you actually reach for the handles, you're starting the exercise. And you need to be concerned about what you're doing and take care and present caution as you reach for the things. So you're not just haphazardly grabbing and jerking and tugging, because you could get hurt before you even start the repetitions. Now next, when you grab the handles, the first version of this I'd like to show you is where you're sitting erect and keeping that virtually erect trunk and posture the whole time. Notice Josh is not moving his head forwards and backwards, he's not moving his trunk forwards and backwards, and he's performing the motion by thinking about this: shoulder blades and arms together. Now watch as his shoulder blades start squeezing together in the back as his arms drag along his side, and this time, because of the forward direction of resistance, try to take your arms back as far as you can without moving your trunk. What many people will do is they'll think that, well, I'm just trying to pull on the handles, and so I'll lean back and that'll pull the handles further. Well, yeah, it'll pull the handles further, but you're asking the lats, the scapular muscles, all of these guys up here to do the work, not necessarily a low back exercise. We've got one of those that you can look at and one of those that you can perform separately. So try to get more out of this, more optimum performance in these muscles that we're looking at on the upper back here by staying in a direct position. Now, if you find that you have trouble figuring out what to do with your shoulder blades, see if you can do it incorrectly where the shoulder blades kind of stay forward and you slouch and just do the arms. You'll see this a lot. You may feel like that you're doing this a lot where the shoulder blades aren't pinching as much. So try your best to, even if you have to do the retraction exercise that's on this DVD or tape first, if you need to figure out what the shoulder blades need to do and try to learn that, and then put it together with this fluid motion called shoulder extension. Now, the next thing is if you're using a really, really light weight, you can perform the motion that you commonly see in the gym where someone reaches forward, bending the low back, and then returns to the erect position. We're going to tell you that as you reach forward, there is some compromise in the spine. The spine can only deal, or the discs specifically, can only deal with about 50% of the original load as you reach forward. So that's why I'm saying it's not a bad thing to do. You have to change the resistance accordingly. And you need to do it slowly if you're going to reach forward. All right, so those are the primary things to be concerned about. Let's take a look at several versions of the triceps pushdown that can be performed using the standard handles. So Amy, step right in here facing the machine. And I'm just going to have her go ahead and grab the handles. We've got the narrow pulley position. And she's going to grab the handles and just bring her upper arms to her sides. Now, she's going to try her best to keep her upper arm right by her side the whole time. And watch how good she is at stabilizing that. And when you've done that correctly, you'll notice the hands moving in an arc. So the name pushdown is almost a little deceiving, because if she moves straight up and straight down, you'll notice the upper arm having to move. So you might want to just kind of dismiss the name and make sure you're not letting the upper arm go backward, make sure you're not letting the upper arm go forward, and using a whole lot of other muscles actually taking away from the tricep. So watch how well she does that. Make sure you've got a weight that allows you to do that. And then I'll show you a couple variations. Not only can she perform this more traditional palm facing down type of grip, she could have, of course, change and slip the standard handle to that hammer grip. And you may really like this better than the other one in terms of performance for this tricep, because it's almost as if you're just using the hand in what could be described as almost a more natural way, rather than forcing an extreme forearm position. And of course, you could do so many things here like alternate. That's just wonderful, because on your normal pull-down machines where people try to do these exercises in the gym with a single cable, you can't move them separately. So this is really awesome. And you could, of course, just do one side at a time. If I took this one away from Amy, you might be one of those type of people. You just really want to concentrate on only one side, and that might be a good idea, especially in the beginning, because you can pay attention to how well you're holding this upper arm stable or still. So there's three little neat versions, and you could again go back to the more traditional grip where you're facing the hand towards the ground. And something that's not nearly as common, we haven't mentioned it yet, but you could even do kind of an underhanded grip with this thing, and it's a little tougher to hang on to. Doesn't change a thing in the triceps. Although bodybuilding magazines will tell you there's something magic about each one of these, there is absolutely no evidence that when you change the grip direction that it changes what's working. because this muscle appears to be totally unaffected by grip. So a lot of this is just based upon personal preference and creating variation for the sake of creating a little more fun in your workout. This is a more traditional triceps pushdown using a straight bar. So Amy's just going to come and face the machine here, standing up on the platform, and grab the bar with about shoulder width grip. Now, very commonly you'll see in the gym these little short handles that require you to grab the bar almost where your hands are touching. This wider bar works out so much better because when you grab a narrow bar, you have to use all these other muscles also. There's nothing wrong with that, but it may not be achieving what you were hoping for, which is maybe just these guys back here. And a wide grip will allow you to isolate this joint more instead of moving everything. So we're going to start by bringing the arm to the side, and then the major goal here is to keep it there and to use nothing else in the process of performing the straightening of the arm. And notice when she keeps that upper arm steady, she's got a nice arc of motion here. We definitely want to stay away from this type of thing where the bar moves straight up and down and she moves her upper arm forward or backwards. We want to stay away from all that so-called cheating type of stuff and be really strict and controlled here. And you will know it when you're doing this right because you will feel this right in the back of your arm working so hard. And make sure this last part right here, see how she straightens all the way out? That's hard. That is hard to do. And you're going to want to stop a little bit early or move out of that position. Take the time to squeeze it all the way to the fully straightened position. And you'll get so much more out of it. And the other thing you'll finally see is sometimes as people start to fatigue, they'll start to bend forward and use their trunk to push the whole bar down. So watch for all those things and try to get it just in the area where you really want to work. Have you ever noticed in the gym when someone goes to do a tricep exercise, instead of grabbing one of the metal handles, they use a rope? And this rope is typically attached in its center with knots or some kind of attachment on the end of it that keeps your hands from sliding off. But the rope creates kind of a V. And as the person performs the exercise, the hands go from near the center and they can spread out. Well, we can do this on the Bowflex and it's even more efficient than the rope in the gym. So take a look. Josh is going to come around here and he's going to end up with kind of a hammer grip with these things. There you go. And he crossed over. So it's one of those things where the left hand grabs the pulley from the right or the handle from the right and vice versa. It's going to allow his hands to come towards center, but as he straightens his arms, they're going to spread out to right below his elbows. So the motion he's performing looks like this. And because the cables are crossing, it is resisted within that plane of that V that he's performing. So this is a really cool exercise. Now, he's not necessarily letting his hands cross, right? His hands are just kind of meeting near the center. And he's doing a great job of the very thing we need to do in every triceps exercise, which is maybe keep this upper arm stable. So it's staying pretty still. It's not following him forward. It's not following him backwards. And that's going to be the key to attaining the muscle that you want right here. Take a look at what Josh has got there. And he's not trying to push down with his trunk and all that other stuff that we could call cheating, in essence trying to take the effort away from the muscles you're concentrating on and putting it in the rest of your body. So try this because it may end up being one of your very favorite triceps exercises on the Bowflex. This is the seated triceps extension. And I think historically in some of the magazines and even the gyms, people have referred to this as the French press, just kind of an old traditional name. But it's really neat on the Bowflex. The first thing you have to do is adjust the seat height because that's going to determine, when you look at the length of the handle and everything, it's going to determine whether you get to move down into the range as far as you want because the exercise is going to be performed overhead. So go ahead and grab your handles once you've adjusted the seat and checked all that out. Grab the handles the way you normally would, curl them into your shoulder, and then all you have to do is bring that elbow up in the air and you're in a great position to start. Notice Josh is positioned so that his palms are facing the ceiling. That's the first version of this.